Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right. Yep. We got two flight risk coaches. So we're going to talk about them a little bit. And then the SEC, when and if they'll go to 9 games. And I've got a very strong opinion about that.
Believe that.
We're going to get into all that good stuff. But first, let's talk about our two flight risk coaches. And you can tell from the thumbnail who that's going to be. Let's start out with our boy, Bill Belichick. Now, when they first hired Bill over at North Carolina, everybody was shocked. Nobody could believe that a 72-year-old would be taking a college football job, head coach, when he's been in the NFL forever and won half a dozen world championships, or how many he won up there with Tom Brady. But he wound up taking the job. But it's got a little escape chute attached to that contract that I brought up when it happened. I was like, be careful. He's got a little way out of this if he wants. Well, now everybody's concerned about it because the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job came open. And when that job opens up, Jerry Jones is going to look for whoever he wants. And he's not going to care about hurting anybody's feelings in North Carolina or anywhere else. Now, there's a bunch of stories all about the UNC football program. Says the general manager responds to reports of Bill Belichick being an NFL flight risk. Says their GM, Michael Lombardi, wants the Bill Belichick to NFL rumors to end. Well, you know, that'd be pretty easy for that to happen now, wouldn't it? All he's got to do is say, not only am I not taking the Dallas Cowboys job, I'm not going to take any NFL job, period. I'm at North Carolina. Don't call me. Don't bother me. As a matter of fact, I'll say I'm staying for 5 years unless they fire me. But he's not going to do any of that. He's just going to send out his little things, and we'll get into that. Now, there's been some concerns about Belichick's slower than expected hiring process in Chapel Hill. And then Lombardi said, we are not slow, just being diligent. Hired 3 people on Sunday. Not one is nervous other than this erroneous report. A completely fabricated story. Thank you, Lombardi wrote on X. And then Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio wrote earlier this week that he believes some higher-ups in UNC and the ACC were worried about Belichick's intentions given that the veteran coach was taking his time to fill out the staff. He's only made 7 hires in a little over a month since taking the job. And, of course, he's got $10 million to spend on a coaching staff, $1 million on strength and conditioning. And Florio wrote, it's making people nervous from the athletic director all the way up to the ACC commissioner. Now, here's the deal. Jerry Jones thinks highly of Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick thinks highly of Jerry Jones. And since he just let Mike McCarthy go, that job's open. And that is a pristine NFL job. I'm telling you, that's a good one. Now, you do have to deal with Jerry, but Bill and Jerry get along. So, I mean, it's a big dog job, if there ever was one. And so, remember, in his contract, he's got a buyout of only $1 million after June 1st. Right now, up until June 1st, it's $10 million. But after that date, it's only a $1 million payment, and he can get out of his contract at UNC and go anywhere he wants. So that immediately kind of put my antenna up. It's like, I don't know about this. Now, in this story, Bill actually confirms his stance on the Cowboys head coaching job. Now, in this story, it talks about there's been quite a few rumors that never died down. It said almost 1 year after departing New England, Bill Belichick wants back on an NFL sideline. A source close to the veteran reportedly said, coaching is in his blood. He wants this. That's before he took the UNC job, by the way, before. It says Belichick and Jones have a good relationship over the decades, and sources last month indicated Belichick had interest in the Dallas job should it come open. But here's what Bill Belichick said. I'm focused on Carolina and Tar Heels and making the 25 team there in Carolina as good as we can make it and build the program to a high level and, you know, to compete in the ACC. So I can't worry about what everybody else is or isn't doing, which is the same stance that he had since his press conference. He said, I didn't come here to leave. And here it talks about the $10 million if he leaves before June 1st and then only $1 million after that. It says, for a franchise star for success, Belichick would be the perfect man, but it seems the former Patriots coach is not keen on a move. And it may be just the fact that if he'd have known the Cowboys job was going to be available, he would have definitely been interested in it, but maybe that ship has sailed. But the two things that make me nervous about Belichick is that $1 million buyout after June 1st, which means anytime after that he can bolt for the NFL. He only owes North Carolina $1 million after they've spent all this time and effort to get him squared away. And then second thing about Bill Belichick, remember, Tom Brady wanted to stay with New England, and he wanted a 2-year deal for $50 million. And Belichick said, no, we'll just give you a 1-year deal. I believe it was around $20 million. Now, if there was anybody at that time that deserved a 2-year deal, and $25 million a year was a discount, by the way, for Tom Brady, Belichick wouldn't do it. Now, you would think if he's going to show loyalty to anybody, it would have been to Brady. Well, Brady winds up going down to Florida to Tampa Bay and wins the world championship. So how'd that go for you, Bill? Because he wouldn't sign a multi-year deal, whereas Tampa would. Anyway, that's why I don't know. He may very well stay at North Carolina, but that is a flight risk guy. It just is. And he's not going to shed a lot of crocodile tears for North Carolina if he decides to leave. So anyway, maybe he stays. He probably will, but I just don't like that contract. That's an easy way out after June 1st. And the $10 million wouldn't scare Jerry Jones away. I just don't understand. Just come out and say, I'm not leaving. I absolutely am going to stay at North Carolina. I'm not going to Dallas or any other NFL team. I'm 72 years old. I'm going to stick with these folks for this 5-year contract unless they don't want to stick with me, and then they can just give me a bunch of money. That would solve it. But, he likes to play little games. So anyway, now we got to talk about our other flight risk guy, and they're talking about this dude. And this story says 3 potential replacements for Ole Miss if Lane Kiffin bolts for the NFL. And Lane's been linked to a couple of jobs in the pro leagues, which it's really colleges pro leagues too now. Part of the rumors, obviously, the Dallas Cowboys. And remember, Lane Kiffin's been an NFL coach. He actually was head coach for the Oakland Raiders. I guess they were in Oakland at the time. And he wound up getting fired by Al Davis. And they had a big dispute over the quarterback they picked from LSU. That was the biggest bust. I can't even remember his name. But Lane didn't want him, and Al did because he could throw the ball 80 yards from his knees. I need to look up that guy. Jamarcus Russell. Yeah, they had a bunch of this over Jamarcus. And like I say, Al just fired him after about a year or two up there. And I think Lane was still mad about that, the Jamarcus thing. Anyway, that's another guy. Look, Ole Miss, I'm sorry. You're going to be dealing with this every year. You hired a guy that's a job jumper, and he's done it for years. And you've kept him there for a few years. I thought he was going to Florida this year, but Billy Napier turned it around at the end of the season with DJ. So it would appear, he may stay for another year, but NFL comes calling. That's going to be difficult for Lane not to take off. He may feel like he's reached his top at Ole Miss because of the recruiting situation, how much money he has to spend, the size of the stadium, all that kind of stuff. I think Ole Miss has been great to him. He should stick with them. They've been extremely loyal to him. He should show loyalty to them long term. But like I say, at some point he's going to creak you. And not only Dallas, there's also speculation of the San Francisco 49ers head coaching position that could become available next season. And as far as replacements, they put down 3 potentials. Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State. That'd be a good hire if he did leave. Pete Golding, who's currently the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss. Now, I don't know that he's got any head coaching experience, but he's been a defensive coordinator for a long time. And Hugh Freeze, oh, man. Can you imagine? Now, if Hugh will just get a quarterback, he'll be fine at Auburn, but I don't know. He brought in the 5-star kid that got benched over at Oklahoma that might be good. We'll see. But Freeze is in a bit of trouble down there in Auburn, which, God, he's recruiting like crazy. There's no reason in the world Auburn should have been 5-7. That's just sticking with Peyton Thorne was a mistake. All right, so that's our 2 possible job jumpers, Bill Belichick and Lane Kiffin, which shouldn't surprise anybody, and there's a lot of stories out there about it. Don't be coming in the comments, oh, you're saying that. Hey, I read the news like you do. All right, now we need to talk about this 9-game crap. As you know, there's been a lot of push for the SEC to move to 9 games. Now, they're not going to do it this next year in 2025 because they already got the schedule set. And if you'll remember, Greg Sankey, throwing a fit, stuck each team with the exact same schedule this year and last year, 2024 and 25. He said, if you're not going to give me the 9 games, I'll just make sure you play the exact same teams in both years, which I thought was very childish. But Sankey's used to getting his way. When you're the head of the SEC, you're used to kind of pushing people around.
It's good to be the king.
And sometimes that works really great for us in the SEC. So I'm not totally complaining about the guy, but sometimes it it gets a little old. Anyway, after this year with only getting 3 teams in the 12-team playoff, the SEC that is, there's a 0% chance, in my opinion, anytime soon that the SEC goes to 9 games. And I don't care how much Greg Sankey wants it. I don't care how much Tony Petitti wants the SEC to go to 9 games because the Big Ten has 9. It's real easy to do that when you're top heavy. The Big Ten has a bunch of great teams on top, and then they got a bunch of weak teams in the bottom. So 9 games doesn't matter to them. They're going to whoop up on those teams below them on a regular basis.
Hey, Spike, how about we chase cars, huh? Does that sound like fun? Nah. Yeah, that wouldn't be no fun.
Whereas in the SEC, we're much more strong from the bottom to the top. Our worst team typically is Vanderbilt. And crap, they went 6-6 last year and beat Alabama and Auburn, which just shocked the crap out of me. That's never going to happen. You're never going to have the bottom teams beating up on Ohio State or Penn State or whatever. That's not going to happen. Those teams are just too separated. In the SEC, not so much. So for Greg Sankey, come in here close and let me explain something to you.
It's not gonna happen.
So just stop. And for Tony Petitti, also you come in here real close.
We're not falling for your tricks. You can forget it.
So this 9-game talk needs to stop. Now, there is one possible way we'd go to 9 games, and that's if the TV contracts change dramatically and there was a ton more money for the SEC teams. Then you would consider it.
He ain't lying.
But other than that, getting the same amount of money but going through a tougher schedule, forget that crap. Because clearly strength of schedule's not that important to that committee, the College Football Playoff Committee. It's just not. And they made that pretty clear, so why would you strengthen your schedule? That would be incredibly stupid. You know, Indiana got in, and at one point they had the 110th toughest schedule. Notre Dame had the 50th toughest schedule. That's the way to go. Have the easier schedule. You can rest your starters. You get less injuries, and it's an easier path. So anyway, did want to cover those today. So anyway, this would affect a lot of teams, including my Vols, including your team. If it's not the Vols, let's say it's Kentucky. Do you want a 9th game in the SEC? Or Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin? Lane would leave. I'll go ahead and tell you, he'd jump to the NFL. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me know to continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, hit this little button right here. Won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here's the most recent video. YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
Please, Pittsburgh. Nothing to see here.